So I want us to look at security, especially elections, with elections coming up, maybe touch on a few issues on governance, and then we'll move on. Let me start with you, Susan.
Well, on governance, I wanted to say the very first State of the Nation talked about transparency in government and the fight against corruption are cardinal. And he says through that, one of the things they would do is to ensure the passage of the Freedom of Information Act, expedite the passing of the National Broadcasting Law, elaborate a code of conduct in government that includes any key information disclosure, ethics, and anti-corruption measures. You know, and they will do all these things. None of them have been done. I mean, the last time they came out with some code of conduct, etc., 3 years down the line, they should have done that from the very beginning. Look, this issue of judgment depths, okay, it's as much the fault of the political elite as much as the civil servants. It was both. None could have done it without one another. You understand? This, you know, issue of corruption, it's not just the political elite. We need to look through our civil service system. Because look, they are the people who have been there the longest. They know the system very well. You come in as a political appointee for the forest, they will show you what to do, when to do it, how to do it, whatever. And they will aid you. They probably start off by corrupting the politician, you know, and then they say, oh, okay, you know, you can do this and you can get away with this and you can get away with that. And that is how it is. But going on the litany of promises when it comes to governments, he talks about the financing of the, they will try and push through in Parliament these bills, the financing of political parties bill. You know, they have convenient RTA my review. You know, this is exactly it, RTA my review, where, you know, I had NDC people when they were in opposition, financing of political this thing. And at that time it was the MPP who were quiet about it because, hey, they were living good and living large, so it was okay, you know. And now NDC have gone quiet about it. It is important that we do finance political parties here. And I'm not saying that because I'm in CPP, but it is because in it are tied some of the things where it has to do with women, you know, getting into certain positions, because you need to get a certain percentage, and if you get a certain percentage, they're going to aid you. If you put a number of women there, they're going to aid you. These are all the things that we need to look at. They talked about the president transition bill. We need to look at that. So we're coming to an election year, and we're going to go through all the wahala that we went through in the last transition. I mean, as a nation, it looks like we are not learning, you know, and we are not taking lessons from the experiences that we are going through. Let us... Okay. I wanted to say something about the energy thing. You know, in the very first, he talked about a debt of VRA having a certain debt, etc., and a study going on. And in that study, they would come out with certain things. We haven't heard anything about it again. You see, following through, that is our problem here. We don't follow through. And then we begin to worry about who is taking credit for what and what. Somebody started and somebody continues, and now who we are fighting about who should take the credit. The best work is done when nobody minds who takes the credit, you know, because you know that you are doing your best to a certain point. If you are unable to finish and somebody is there because you've done it to a certain point, somebody needs to continue. That is what governance should be about. This NDC, MPP thing about, I did this and I did it to this point and you did this and you... Let's stop it. People want things done. You are a government, we voted for you, get it done. If we vote you out, the next person who comes, if it is a good thing, continue it. Nobody should worry about who is taking credit for it. When the people feel it and the people know it, they will go and they will put their thumb there for you.
Thank you, Susan. I'll just go to the studio, and I want to hear a little clip from the president again talking about security, and then we'll continue.
It's an election year. It goes without saying that we have to prepare the security agencies so that they can ensure peace before, during, and after the election. We are doing all that we can so that we can make them ready to undertake this assignment. Now, there is evidence that crime has reduced in many areas. However, I'm not going to go into details. What we want, if possible, is a crime-free nation. Now let me look at the various agencies. When you come to the armed forces, we are trying to make sure that they reach the level where they were some years ago. We have tried to do this. We have tried to do this through the supply of equipment and hardware to Navy and Air Force. But you may remember that in my last year's State of the Nation.
Okay, so the president was obviously going to go on to talk about how they had equipped the fire service, the military with airplanes, the immigration service, and all the rest of the security agencies. Katie Hammond.
Yes, but before I do, just a quick one on what my lady said. She said that the president talked about the toll debt and all that, and they thought it was
in the very first.
And the reason why they are quiet, they are mute now, is this: that we challenged them. We came out with the figures and told them that, contrary to the suggestion that the debt was about 450 million that they were talking about, we left a debt of 9.27. Anybody with any information contrary to that on papers, bring the papers and we will discuss. That is why they are quiet. That is why you haven't heard. So if you haven't heard anything about it, it is because we challenge them to bring the papers. These are the facts. That's why they haven't come. Yeah. Let's talk about law and that. We are now going to go to what do you call it, the roads and those things. Are we going to talk about the roads before we go to
infrastructure?
We didn't give us the opportunity to do that because something about
your time. You chose
somebody said, I don't know where he went to. That the person said, yeah, you should be looking at. Look, Medina Panta. It's a distance of I think what half a kilometer or so. It's taken us 4 years. Not one work done about it. And then talks about that you give Wyoming and his friends all the money to go and drop. And then you have, look at what is going on in Kumasi. Ashanti region, I don't know who deal with it in the context of security, what they said. But the Oforuko, all the interchange, he won't do it. They won't do it. The Kumasi, because the road is going to Kumasi, there seems to be ethnocentric tendency creeping in everything. You know, I don't understand because they are talking consistently about Ashanti region. So the roads going in there too, they won't do the roads in there. I don't understand. There. No, I won't go there.
So
but
don't.
I've left.
You already said it, but don't go there again,
I won't go there. I'm coming back to this thing. Talk about. I am very sensitive when it comes to the security forces, if only because I also had the privilege of working with them for about a year. So the police, when it comes to it, I'm quite careful what I say. And it is true we are coming to another election. We know what happened, particularly because I was partly in charge when we went for election the last time, and I knew what happened. There was a president is talking about the police, increasing the police force. Do you know something else? We were told that they wanted to increase the police force, but then we should, there was a need to increase the police force. But because of lack of accommodation, they were going to freeze the barracks accommodation. We were going to freeze the recruitment that we had gone through before we exited. And the accommodation was going to be provided to some extent by the very famous, or may I now use the very notorious STX or whatever. Now, we know, at least it's one thing that I'm surprised that he didn't mention it in here, because as Aruna was saying, the president has been very humble enough to admit his shortcomings. And somehow the state of the nation at the STX is conspicuously missing, but he should have mentioned it. We don't have STS. We don't have the buildings for the police security officers, but we have a recruitment of over 4,000 police officers. Well, the president says no building, so we won't recruit. So when they recruited these guys, where are they going to go to? It's because MPP recruited them. We should put them aside and get the NDC's own recruitment.
Or maybe haven't realized that the construction of the affordable housing for the security was delayed.
When did they realize
and we still needed more security personnel.
So they should I give you the benefit of the doubt. I'll give you, not them. They know what they are up to. And then he goes out here and then says that the army, listen to this, Ghana Armed Forces is not in the near moribund state that it used to be before January 2009. You know, Mr. President, some of these things, they are heartbreaking. You know, the armed forces have never been happy as they were under President Kufuor. You know, there was something else that was happening to them that they were extremely angry about. They go to United Nations peacekeeping, and the government had a habit of keeping a good percentage of the money that they were...
Is that peculiar to NDC or...
No, I mean, policy? That was the practice before Kufuor's time. You know, so President Kufuor and the Defense Minister, Dr. Ado Kufuor at the time, thought that, well, it wasn't appropriate. It was morale sagging, you know, to just keep all this. And what they were doing was keeping a certain account. In fact, there is a suggestion that it was that account that was the basis for the famous, that plane. The plane that we inherited, presidential jet, that the Gulfstream. It was that account that formed the bulk of whatever money's account through which they paid this money, paid for that Gulfstream. But Kufuor's administration insisted that the armed forces should be paid exactly what it is that was paid them by the United Nations. So it was just a fraction that was kept by the government for their own benefit, but a chunk of it was given them. I mean, what was it? We tried to give them all that they could. So for the president to come and say that it was in a moribund, the armed forces have never been in any state as moribund as he describes it.
Are you talking just about...
But money is not everything.
Exactly. And are you only talking about emoluments to them?
You want me to go through all that?
No, because there could also be facilities, for instance.
Tell us, what has the armed... You see, we may not be very conscious about that. The armed forces has been one institution when you compare to the police. We don't want to go into the details, but the security matters, you tend to be a bit reticent. You don't want to talk much about this. And there's no money. I'm just giving an example of why not to describe the armed forces as moribund, because there was never anything like this. Now, so when you go to the police, and you talk about their...
equipment procured for the security services.
So I'm going to the police. I don't. The military is you don't want to.
You have 2 more minutes.
Yeah, sure. So. But let's go to the police. The military, the equipment that they have never complained. There was a point in time that we decided. You remember the planes? We want to buy them. They wanted to buy them. They wouldn't. The NDCs criticized my friend here. They went to rooftops. Crying, they won't let us equip them with the necessary whatever. Now they talk about the moribund nature of this. But let's go to the police service, for example. When we came in, and I'll tell you a story that I'm not even sure the president of Ghana knows. I'm going to divulge to you today. Our President Kufuor, I don't think he knew about this story. Okay, he sent us. We went to Nigeria on some other issues. And then this whole issue of trying to make sure that Ghana police forces and our people were granted this facility, the cars, the things that in the end came. And then this guy came to the Peugeot cars, and this guy came to us and then said to us, oh, let's grant some interview, and can you confirm that the government of Ghana will buy this sort of things? So that's, poor boy, I have just been sent here to deal with other matters in relation to oil. You are talking about this. And now what I didn't know at that stage, though, was that the president himself, in his own wisdom, had already spoken to Obasanjo and others, and that we were going to get this fleet of Peugeot cars. Look at the fleet that came to this country. And then you see, at that time, did you see the place, the clapping? Then it went on from that stage to that point that at the time we were exiting their uniform. You saw that at a point in time, you saw what these guys were wearing. We did everything. So I don't want anybody, when it comes to security, taking the credit away with this.
They've also done some things.
Nobody's disputing that.
And government is a continuous process.
Absolutely. I haven't got anything. It is a comparison that this heartens my heart to talk about the moribund nature of it. But when you talk about the... Please, 1 second. Look, to talk about the security, President decided to talk about the Ashanti region, and that he had no intention of unleashing any violence on the people of Ashanti. Why is that? The last time President talked about Ashanti agenda, and then this time he's talking about unleashing whatever. The NDC is quite clear in its mind that it is lost. Indeed, courtesy President Rawlings, it lost the next election, month 8 into its administration. What the NDC has decided and is planning is to unleash some sort of intimidation, violence on the Ashanti part of the country. The president, by a Freudian slip, is suggesting that, well, that is what they intend to do.
From my understanding again
yes.
of the president's presentation,
yes.
this was in specific reference to a publication he had seen that morning.
Yes.
And so if you look at the text, you wouldn't find Ashanti specifically mentioned.
But Ashanti came up in what he said. Was it on this man? I don't know what is it that he saw. But Ashanti, Mr. President, we should leave the Ashanti thing if we're going to make sure that there is no violence. And what have we done to Achuma? What have we done to, what do you call it, Atiwa? What have we done to... Mention them. Haruna, don't sit down there and look at me unconcerned. Those people who were killed, the bits that my colleagues who went to listen, their cars were crashed. The police, they looked on unconcerned, haplessly.
So he's saying that he's going to ensure that it doesn't happen.
One of them yesterday.
Thank you very much.
One last one. Let me.
No, your time is up.
Let me.
I was going to go to Kokuta. I'll come to you last, and then you can respond to the issues that they have also raised.
Okay, I'm fine.
Okay, Koku.
Well, so the 8 years of Kufuor's administration rendered the Ghana Armed Forces moribund. Is that what we have been told?
I think that point has been made by Katie Amon.
No, so I'm not entitled to
Oh, you can. Please go
make
ahead.
a comment on that. I'm surprised at that assertion. Definitely, the armed forces have had logistical challenges, I mean, over the years. But I'm surprised that anybody will attribute their difficulties, their logistical challenges, to the 8-year administration of Kufuor's governance. I'm surprised. See.
No, but that's not what he said. He said
it used to be
moribund before, so it could possibly be.
It could actually mean that in NDC 1 and 2 it was.
8 solid years of Kufuor administration before January
2009. It could also mean that in NDC 1 and NDC 2.
It could be from NDC 1
and NDC 2. Let's talk make his point.
So let's agree that those who've had a total of nearly 20-something years in governance, if we were to do some mathematical allocation of blame, will be a greater responsibility. That's all I want the world to know. Because otherwise, left on the surface, it looks as if, well, we came and inherited this situation, we are building on it. In any case, it is also not entirely true that the armed forces were not beneficiaries of some logistical input. If you go to the parliamentary Hansard, you see loan agreements and contracts and things that were made. Indeed, the naval boats that have come in recent times, which are, I'm not sure if they've been commissioned, were done during the NPP time. It takes 3 years or 4 years to build those boats. I've all the documentation, the naval commander went there and all the rest. But it's continuous exercise. There were helicopters, if you remember, the Barclays Bank loan that were bought for the armed forces. So I think that we have to be very careful when we are doing it. That's what I'm saying. I find it difficult to say there was some propaganda inherent in this State of Nation address, because there are certain areas very carefully, you know, cut-off date, 2008 or January 2009. If you take a look at the national insurance thing, the way it was put, no, in 2005 it began with 600,000. By today it is 17-point-something million. There's
You'd
a
have preferred 2008.
There's something. Yes. Why didn't they do that there?
Or maybe they were looking at it from beginning.
No, that's a clever way. In other
dates.
areas it wasn't done that way. Because if it's done that way, you realize that by 2009 it was around 12 million, 12-point-something million.
Okay.
But it's a very very smart way of putting out information.
So that Ghanaians can compare us to those who are closely competing.
Okay,
but that's what I mean. I thought we shouldn't use State of Nation addresses to do that. That's the point I'm making. That perhaps we can use political platforms to do that. This is enough ammunition for the communicators and propagandists to go out and pretend they don't know the history of the thing. But corruption, I'll be honest.
I thought election security. Or you won't be able to do corruption?
No, we won't.
Okay,
but we've touched on it at various points.
No,
so
corruption.
So
See,
who wants to deal specifically with it? That's fine.
So scanty, sketchy. No. Listen carefully, and it's loaded. It says, Madam Speaker, let me state here now that I remain undaunted by attempts to tout the fight against corruption by legal and technical means. Scanty, sketchy, unclear, but loaded. You know, undaunted by which attempts? By whom? Legal and technical means. Which are they? What are the corruption cases that have been touted or sabotaged or, you know, annulled by legal and technical means? Is it Ghana at 50? Is it the Yoko invitation to some MPP people to come? What is it? It's so unclear.
Okay.
And I'm not too sure this does much justice to the purported commitment to fight corruption. Furthermore, he says, I do not care whose ox is gored when it comes to the fight against corruption. Neither would I be off-tracked by all the sideline comments that are being made to befuddle the hardcore issues. It's so unclear.
Okay, so your point is that bit is not clear.
Yeah,
very well.
To be honest, this does no justice.
Okay, and what about election
significantly, Susan went back to 2009, and she was right. Some of those things she specified are part of the fight against corruption. Those instruments, in terms of legislative instruments, none of those things has come into being. And 2011, 2012, the last State of Nation address, the issue on corruption, this is what we are giving. It's disappointing, to say the least.
Okay. Quickly on election security, and then maybe another minute on election.
In the wake of Wyoming and all the rest, when this is the only thing we hear, that you can see.
Noted. Let's hear Haruna.
Let me just...
I mean, it's on the military. Because I think that the president was also very brief there when he said the military, they were mainstreaming the 48 engineers, and he's very impressed with it. And nothing else was said again. What mainstreaming have they done? What are they doing?
We will. Tilly, thank you very much. First of all, it's important that one responds to Ashanti as you attempted to do, that the president is president for the nation and for the country, inclusive of Ashanti, and government has no malice or ill intent towards any group or organized group of persons or ethnic group in this country. Social cohesion is fundamental to the peace and stability of our country, but the president necessarily had to respond to a publication in the Daily Guide, to be specific, which alleged, and the headline was "Meal Secret Out," and that intimidation, shortage of voter registrar, particularly in Ashanti region. So, Honorable Hammond, the president needed to give an assurance to the people of Ghana and to the people of Ashanti that he has no such intention and he would not do such a wicked thing as has been attributed to him. So it's important. Now, when you talk about even shortage of electoral materials, it has occurred in every other part of Ghana. So to single out Ashanti was itself erroneous, was itself misleading. Now, on the Susan's point, brilliant, as I agree with them, Freedom of Information Bill is one of the litmus instruments that allows for deepening transparency and exposure to the workings of government. It has left the executive arm of government. It is now within Parliament. It is for Parliament to pass it. I can even speak to it. I recall that when the bill went to Parliament, my ministry gave the first support in terms of getting them to do the first regional, to take inputs from the regions. So that is being finalized and is before Parliament. So government remains committed to it. What? Absolutely, absolutely. I agree with you. So Freedom of Information Bill, we have, and like I said, with some e-government funding, we even supported the Joint Committee on Communication and others, Constitutional Legal, to do some work on it. Now, National Broadcaster Bill, perfect to the point, I agree with you, is long delayed. I'm finalizing it with the Minister for Information, also with e-Ghana support. What we needed was to fine-tune a role between the National Media Commission and some conflict with the National Communications Authority over spectrum and other issues. So that, I believe, should also be working towards Cabinet and to Parliament. Code of conduct is in the system. Now on election... Oh, I have, and you know that I have. you remember that you gave me some good advice on it.
Sure.
Well, this shouldn't have been said public. I have. And asset declaration. Yeah, but these are things you think that the president could have commented on, whether or not all his officials are keeping faith with the law on asset declaration. No, it is certainly an issue. I mean, for every government, the temptation to abuse privilege and to abuse the office of a public officer is very high. What we need to do, which is what the president have been guided with, is to make corruption a high-risk activity, that persons culpable are dealt with in accordance with law. Now, election security, Tilly, I think that overall, the political parties must play their role very well. The Electoral Commission should be resourced adequately as government is doing. I have some personal concerns I have raised in respect of verification and authentication of biometric register. And I hope that my colleague will not take offense that a private matter I discussed with him at the Ahmadiyya Convention, which I publicly stated for him to respond. You see,
was for the Ahmadiyya Convention. Why did you say it?
But you were chairman for the ceremony, and it's important that we say it so that tomorrow myself and you will be judged by what we have said. You see, biometric register, how well we do it, can itself affect the stability and peace, not just the credibility of the election. And we have cautioned that, look, I have seen instances, and I use a bank for example. I've seen instances where Ghanaians have walked to financial institutions just to withdraw money, and they are told that wait, or they are told that go and come back because the system is down. I cannot imagine that happen to our electoral process on election day. And verification and authentication, if not properly done, raises critical issues about the system getting down. I mean, if there is a fiber disruption, if anywhere in the country, and the national database cannot fit the regional database, the election will come to a standstill. So I have said that the Electoral Commission have not even piloted this. They have not experimented it anywhere in Ghana. To do large scale, they must give us assurance that it's above board, other than just the process of improving the electoral register. But overall, the police will be resourced, as the president said, to deal with security. But much of the problem is not the police. It's the political party and our activists that we should call our supporters to order. Intimidation must stop. Violence is not part of it. Everybody must go along campaigning freely and easily. So I think that collectively, we all have a responsibility to safeguard the peace and security of the country. I think that the Inter-Party Advisory Committee should begin working not just at the national level, from district through regional, and then deal with all the early warning signals. But government remains committed that nobody should take the peace of this country for granted, and nobody should disturb our peace. But I agree that the president could have been more elaborate on matters of corruption and the extent to which he is dealing with it. Why the president avoided certain comments naturally was because those matters are before court, and he felt that it was sub judice to go into those specific matters.
All right, so we've got to do
electoral one that is raised. I think it's fair for us because he attributes to my chairmanship what happened on that occasion. So at least quickly
on the biometric.
Yeah, on the biometric thing. Look, the Electoral Commission is consistently said that it's within its capability. They will sort it out. As Katia is mounted again, their political platform made so much. We will not accept it. We will not do the verification. We will not do this because
but it's not up to him. Really.
Well, of course, but see, that is the same strategy that my colleague deployed on that occasion. And he is trying to confuse the people of Ghana again. The Electoral Commissioner says no, all the business
so we'll
they
leave that
told
to
the
the
country.
EC.
Yeah, it's not true.
And I'm sure the issues that will arise will be dealt with at IPAC.
Just one issue to Susan. The transition bill is being finalized. In fact, if you remember last week, we took it through consideration stage. It was left with just 2 or 3 clauses that we needed to fine-tune. So there would be a legislation which will guide the transition process. At least before Parliament rises, it will be passed into law.
Okay, you're still on Newsfile, brought to you in association with MTN, in association with Unique Insurance and TTB, a member of the EcoBank Group. Connect to the biggest and most rewarding family, MTN, and get the royal welcome of a lifetime in the MTN Aquaba Reloaded offer. How? Just buy a new MTN SIM card today and get free credit to talk more, text more and browse more over the next 6 months. Connect to MTN today and get 1 Ghana cedi free talk time instantly. And in the 2nd to the 6th months, when you recharge up to 5 Ghana cedis, you get 25%. When you recharge above 5 Ghana cedis, you get 50% bonus. It's a whole 6 months of freebies and bonuses. Let's welcome you on board to MTN today. See press and posters for details or dial 111. Terms and conditions apply. Life is always richer with MTN. MTN everywhere you go. We'll do some text messages now. Bruce says, a bird does not sing because it has an answer. It sings because it has a song. It looked to me like the president didn't have anything to tell us. I thought we had to be told the actual state of the economy. Address says 60,000 laptops to school children. Where? We need specifics in the address. This one says, just before the 2nd of January 2012, cement was selling... 2012? Okay, cement was selling at 14 Ghana cedis at Sunyai, but as I'm speaking to you now, it's selling at 19 Ghana cedis, and it's even difficult to get. So what is the argument about inflation going down? Noyop Enterprise in Takrady says, please inform the NDC man that life is not about numbers, but how we see things in the market. Market prices for oil, 25 liters, is equal to 7300 gallons. Okay, I'm not sure he gave us a price. I'm not sure.
Of his arithmetic.
Yeah, unfortunately, so we'll have to do without it. Nien Hacho says, I'm a senior staff in the public service working for over 20 years. I can now boast of 800 Ghana cedis take home. God bless Professor Mills. Really?
one of the few
that is serious. Is it for 800 a senior officer?
Is it that much or it's not?
Yeah, well, it's immaterial. While someone says a bag of cement is 16 Ghana cedis and not 22 Ghana cedis. Okay. These emails are to aid. It says, how can President Mills' State of the Nation address be impressive without any mention of how women, children, and the physically challenged and the elderly are being taken care of? I think the humor notwithstanding, the address was just a small screen, a narration of how the government is confused about economic matters. Bediako in Bibiani says the president could have done better, but for his gargantuan donation to his cronies to win power at all costs. Sadat in Accra says the president was candid in his address to the good people of Ghana. As for the minority members and their unparliamentary behavior, the least said about them, the better. Schiffman in Kumasi says it's obvious the cost of living under this government is very high. The president did not impress me with his last State of the Nation's address. I hope and pray that we would have a true reflection of the state next year under the leadership of Nana Addo Akufo-Addo. And I think this is a good time to move on to, we'll talk briefly about MC and then we'll talk about the NDC letter from the 4 eminent members. This week, one of the biggest projects under the Millennium Challenge account that Ghana secured under the Kufuor administration, which is the N1 project or highway, was commissioned. Interestingly, there was a shared credit. The president says you could call it 1-1 draw, because even though the NPP administration procured the money, it was under his administration that it was actually implemented. And it was a really beautiful sight to see the former president and the current president sit together and come together to inaugurate it. Now, this comes, on the background of jostling, really, especially between the NDC and the NPP, about who should take credit for what project. So could this really be the end of that? And what is the significance, really? How should we end this partisan ownership? Because at some point in our life, some projects has to start, and at some point it has to finish. It may not be under the same president. Let me start with you, Koku. Significance of former Kufuor's presence, shared, if you like, glory in the project.
Well, the MCA itself, the whole project, the compact, it was, at the end of the day, it needed parliamentary approval. It's an act of parliament set up MIDA. Am I right?
Yeah, you're right.
Yes. There was a lot of bipartisanship that was displayed, in spite of some differences here and there. In fact, I remember Aruna raised some issues about districts, the selection of districts, the beneficiaries and things. I've been going through the Hansard and quite interesting. And then when we went to the US for the signing, it was again bipartisan. I remember E.T. Mensah was there, and there was a speech. I can't read the whole thing, but President Kufuor used that occasion to ask Ghanaian politicians to let the national interest, come to the fore. E.T. Mensah responded in like manner. So it was a very beautiful scene in the U.S. that day, seeing the political divide united on this particular project. Indeed, Ghana won, or Ghana became a recipient based on a certain, criteria. Good ruling justly, governing justly, investing in people, and reducing, poverty through economic growth. In almost all the indicators, there were a few areas we didn't match, but quite a lot of them we did match. The democratic credentials of this country by 2004 was critical in giving Ghana that eligibility recognition. So you remember it was on 11th May 2004 that I think the Americans notified Ghana that we had been selected. I remember Osafo Mafu holding a press conference on May 13th, 2004 to announce to Ghanaians that we had been selected. Somewhere along the line, I think it was August 1st, 2006 that the compact was signed in the US. I've been going through the significance before I come to the Kufuor's president. I've been going through the speech that the Millennium Development Authority boss, Chief Executive Officer Martin Eson Benjamin presented to the press on February 7, 2012. And you realize that, look, apart from this big project that we see, is it the George Bush Highway, there are many, many, many other projects. Yeah. They look smaller relatively, and so perhaps we are losing focus of them. And
if I can just help you with that, because my understanding of the MCA, that road actually was constructed ostensibly to facilitate the export of horticultural items.
It's been on the drawing board since 1965, according to Eson Benjamin. Since 1965, if you know the concept, the fact that they wanted to facilitate not just the horticultural things, but for road to Tema, that's right, to the airport and all that. And it had to take this process to get us to do it. But as I'm saying, there are many other projects. I've been going to agricultural projects, 6 key activities. The total budget there was $208.8 million, or 38.8% of the total compact budget. And you go in there and there are irrigation projects, some agro-processing projects, feeder roads, schools. Yeah. Schools.
What's actually the price of the road itself, the cost? How did the cost? It's not stated officially.
Yeah, they stated
it. Banded about 50-50, and I don't know where they're getting the 50 from.
117, it says here, 173.
That's right.
0.2 million, or 31.7% of the compact funds.
And then when this government came, they said they needed variation, as usual, variation in everything. So they varied it to.
So there are so many things: ferry activity, rural services development, so many, and in a very integrated manner, in terms of agriculture, transportation, and education. Yeah. So people should not forget that it is not just the huge highway that we see that was a byproduct of this exercise. And I think to that extent it's good.
There's even an element on the Volta Lake.
Yes, that's right. So it's good. But the presence of Mr. Kufuor, as I'm saying, was not the beginning. In the beginning, at the compact signing, you had that display of national cohesion, consensus, and unity.
But it still didn't stop the NPP from wanting to take sole credit. I remember what's his name?
Even people in this government too, the money is big.
Yeah.
Yes, even this people in this government have done the same.
Exactly.
Before the commissioning, I heard ministers of state, deputy ministers sitting on radio and claiming credit for this road, as if they didn't know where the history came from. You understand? But it's important that in telling the story, we are fair to everybody. But there's no doubt about the fact that it was due to the consolidation of our democratic credentials and the economic performance between 2001 and 2004 that brought about that. Ghana's democracy had begun before.
And I want you to quickly tie in this, because for most people this was significant and important, because the NDC and the MPP especially have consistently jostled over, this is my project, you know, without, and in fact not without, knowing very well that government or governance is a continuous process, and somebody starts and somebody finishes.
Yeah, I'm sure as we grow our democracy, most of those things will pale out into insignificance. But there are many such examples where governments too have not acknowledged the role played by their predecessors. Sometimes it happens. I remember the railway thing, the Tama area, where President Mills was commissioning it. He recalled the role that NPP had played. I also recall Kandapa and Adokufo during the NPP administration, when Adokufo went to the 37 military thing, acknowledging the role that had been played. Kandapa doing some energy projects, acknowledged the role that the NDC had played. So we've had instances where some of these politicians have had the courage of conviction and a sense of fairness to acknowledge the continuity.
What will it take to spread that across?
I'm saying gradually it will happen. There's too much partisanship and propaganda in our system, too much of it. And you see, because sometimes it is used for electoral capital, it becomes difficult. Look, that Tishi, the 100-bed hospital, the sod was cut in April 2009 and finished somewhere 2010. And then NDC claims exclusive credit. But you go into the history, you realize that was done, and all the designs, the drawings, the agreements were done when the NPP was in government.
Well noted. Let's hear
this
Susan.
is Ghana. We cannot change it. It is Ghana first, to that extent. But in telling the history, yes, you can itemize, you can segment. But at the end of the day, I think that is Ghana first, as far as I'm concerned.
Susan, I was going to come to you.
Well, I mean, to continue where Kweku left off, it must be Ghana first, Ghana last, Ghana always. Not just Ghana
even
first.
Though everybody is looking for votes to be leading Ghana.
Even though everybody, it must always be Ghana. You know, Ghana first, Ghana last, Ghana always. And that's how it must be. And like I said before, if you don't care about who gets the credit of a job that you're doing, you know, and you want to put in your best, it's done well. You know, you're doing a job because this is my job, this is, you know, not because I want credit, etc., but this is the job that I've been assigned to do, and I must do it well. But you see, I liked that they say that it unifies Ghanaians, and I hope that that era where people start something and a new government comes and says that because this government starts, it's gone forever. Because we've seen it right from Nkrumah's time where things were abandoned, you know, and we all have all these, you know, in the Fourth Republic we've done well, and I hope that we continue to grow in that direction. In saying that, I hope that, what do you call it, the affordable housing, we had all this noise about the affordable housing. Yeah. The affordable is a good project, there may have been problems, but let's continue with it. And, you know, let's solve the problems. Yes, certain things may not have gone right, and you may want to change direction a bit. But if the idea is good, you know,
it's good that you mentioned that, though, because at the end of the day, there's also the electorate out there to whom a government elected has to justify its performance to demand or request renewal of their mandate.
Yes, but when people feel it in their lives, you won't need to say,
if I say NDC did that. Or the affordable housing projects, can the NDC claim credit in an election to say they started it, they left it hanging, and we finished it, so we're the ones to take credit for it?
Well,
or should it be that they started and we finished? So let's share the glory.
If somebody is living in that place and was paying rent, etc., and is now living, that person maybe on that voting day will decide that, look, I like where I'm living, and I think that these people ought to get the credit. I'll give them the credit.
What if it had been pre-allocated, which was in this case?
Then maybe that person ought to think in a different manner. You know, there's so many things that influence electorate. Let's say, for instance, today I was coming here. Usually probably would have taken me an hour, but today it took me 45 minutes. On election day, I might just consider that and decide that from Sakumono, you know, and I might just consider that. But maybe on election day, I am stuck in traffic, I'm irritated, I don't care. I will not vote for that person. So there are many things that will influence people. And like we said, as our democracy goes, we will move away from who did this, who did that. Governments are supposed to do that. I pay taxes. This is what I deserve. I don't care who gives it to me. Later on, I will look at my life and I will share my citrum and then mazatwaba. But you see, the thing that I wanted also to say was that this project is part of a larger picture. It is not the end in itself. It's supposed to feed into other things and other things to grow. So let's not just make it about this. You see, let us make it about the bigger picture where this one is just one sector of that larger picture and needs to feed into it. So if pineapples are going across, what again is to be done? What are the other smaller benefits that we are going to get that are going to help? Then another thing that we need to talk about is the indiscipline, because already we've started with our behavior, and you know, cars are stopping when they are not supposed to be stopping, and are picking passengers when they are not supposed to be picking passengers, all sorts of things. A proper highway, the proper highway patrol. You know, people are going to be going fast on that road. People are going to do more than the 100 that they are supposed to be allowed on that road. What are the things that we're going to do to ensure that it doesn't become a death trap? You're going 100 and then some trotro decides that he wants to pick somebody somewhere and he stops all of a sudden, and then all sorts of things. So let us look at it also in that totality. But all in all, I think it's a good thing. We thank the Americans. The Americans don't do anything for free, so we need to know what they are getting also from that. But the important thing is that Ghana first, Ghana last, Ghana always.
Katie.
Yes, still. Whatever the Americans are looking for in return, at least they're giving us 547 million to do our roads, and we have given 667 million to NDC friends to put into their pockets and blow and do whatever. You know, but there's something that I wouldn't allow us to miss, and this don't let us miss out on it. See, the president in delivering the State of the Nations seems to be finding scapegoats for all his deficiencies and shortcomings. Look at the point that Kweku was making when he said that he will not be off track by sideline comments that been made to befuddle hardcore issues. Then he goes on to attack the judiciary. Look at what he says over here. Well, the Ghana at 50 commission prosecutions were aborted. So he jumps on at page 25 to talk about the perception that judiciary is on the wrong, on the side of wrongdoers, and that undermines democracy. So he's suggesting that the judiciary aborted this, and so it is not right. It doesn't.
The state of the nation in terms of the public perception of the judiciary.
Well, that's the entire this habit persistently attacking the judiciary troubles me.
I'm just asking, does that reflect what people think of the judiciary as of now?
You shouldn't be so fair to be asking me that question. It's the president who is saying it.
An individual.
Yeah, sure, but I don't see that way. The judiciary remains the only bulwark against executive excesses, and to consistently attack them. No, Parliament is not. When we ran to the Supreme Court, there are a few matters that I'm championing, we'll be running to the Supreme Court against Parliament. And when was there, Peter was there the last time, there was a matter that I wanted to go to the Supreme Court. Ultimately, Supreme Court is the book, and you keep on attacking them. One point, you were going to hand them down as cats, you know, and this time around.
The president said that.
When the president came, he said, well, do I look at the cat hunter? But what did he tell the chairman of the party who brought about this idea of cat hunter?
We don't know, but he didn't say that.
The Ghana at 50 thing was aborted precisely because there was no legal basis for the attempt to prosecute that case. It wasn't called for.
This moment is for so looking at the significance of the MCA.
Rather praise them for what they are doing. Well, the MCA, this government should also make sure that it's able to secure the second tranche of it. I mean, the first tranche before secured, we got the roads. Look,
with a lot of help from Dr. Pakwesi. I'm
not so sure. Pakwesi traveled to President Kufuor on one occasion. He came back and he told me what happened, but even he didn't give credit to himself. Was the man on side. No, also here one or two things. That's fine. Or a minister, no, so when he went in there to do his work, I mean, fine, he did his work. I don't know what he did. That
he did his work well.
See, it's only in NDC government that people don't do their work well and they are paid. In Kufuor's administration, as a minister, you did your work well and you earned your income. So if you did this,
your point. You had your time. Thank you very much.
The point I'm making is that, you know, you didn't know about it. As no Benjamin, they nearly sacked him. It was the Americans who stamped the authority. No, you couldn't. We don't like this foolishness of yours that you want to sack everybody. Let the guy stay on and pursue.
From the NPP time.
We weren't sacking just whoever came to mind. You know, so make sure that, and then the flags. You planted all the flags all over. For what? NDC flag. NDC is not Ghana. This is national thing. The Americans gave us the money, hours that you gave to your friends. They spent their taxpayers' money on us. You did not have to put up your flags there.
Thank
but anyway, the point is that secure the second tranche. We are watching.
Let's hear Haruna.
My understanding, I think that I agree with Kweku's premise.
You agree with me once, you know,
that
some of the things
Millennium Challenge Corporation itself was established somewhere in 2004 by the Congress of the U.S. as a redefinition of its foreign aid policy to deepen accountability. And it was after an assessment that 40% of countries, or 40 years when nations practice foreign aid, there was a stagnation of their per capita income, and they needed to redefine it. I also agree with Kweku that Ghana benefited as a result of what you can rightly call a democratic dividend, that you needed some 17 policy indicators to qualify: civil liberties, control of corruption, rule of law, government effectiveness, and many other issues. And since 1993, we have demonstrated as a country that we uphold civil liberties. That's why he freely can talk and go to the Supreme Court to raise legal issues. It means there's rule of law in Ghana. There's control of it.
Absolutely.
Yes, because every government will marshal mechanisms to deal with corruption. So, thankfully, I think I'd like to take it on Tilly's premise. It was a fine part of Ghana's politics, and I think that we should de-emphasize the ugly side of our politics. To have former President Kufuor join President Mills, in my honest view, there should be no news about it. That should be normal in our country. I look forward to the day when the incumbent president can have breakfast with the political opposition to discuss matters of common interest. Those that, look, regardless of whether NDC or MPP is in power, I just give you one example: petroleum subsidies. We all know that if you don't manage it well, whether under MPP or NDC, the economy may crash on the face of it. So you should be able to sit down and agree that this is the way to go. But I'm saying that I look forward to it. I'm a Millennium Challenge Corporation. So the road will ease traffic. It will reduce business costs. A lot of people who are associated with it are excited about it. And I think that there was prudent use of that. Let me assure Katie that the second tranche will come, because our democracy will not suffer. We have deepened even the values. Whether civil liberties, rule of law, between yesterday and today is improved and enhanced. So we will. What is important is that this time round, and we need your input, like Kweku said, this one largely went into agriculture, road infrastructure, water and sanitation, and other issues. This time, the compact will focus on energy and to deal with our deficiencies in dealing with energy. I don't know the specific things which will go into it, but I know, for instance, rural electrification, expansion of megawatts capacity to deal with the future issues of solar, old transmission system is targeted at energy, and it will be secured with present Mills to it to be secured. We still have the same. Yeah, but Tilly, let me just conclude by saying that you have Millennium Challenge Corporation Compact under Bush, continued under President Obama. It comes to the point you made. You see, it's not for nothing that under the directive principles of state policy, we should necessarily have continuity in terms of projects initiated by previous administration. I think that we should stop this politics of approbate and reprobate. Yes, somebody must initiate something. Somebody executes it, like the president is that. You see, we should take our politics beyond it, that whether party A or B, your fundamental objective or intent is the good of the Ghanaian people. Now, how do we make sure that the deficiencies we identify, you read the parliamentary debate, we improve upon it for the purpose of sourcing the second trench. I'm happy because I know a number of communities, even in my constituency, which has had water courtesy Millennium Challenge intervention. But we agree that the maintenance of the infrastructure is also important, and we should be looking at it. We shouldn't just look at the road has been done, and then with our poor maintenance culture, 4 or 5 years, you cannot want to drive on that particular road. I think essentially we should begin to open up our political space and then move on.
It's agreed, but some of the propagandists and
go back. We're out of time on that.
Just a little bit.
No.
Are out there taking MCA projects and making it look as if they are exclusively government of Ghana projects.
I'm sure the MPP are also doing the same.
Roads.
We have to move on.
Government project,
Oh,
it's past.
No. But I'm saying that you see, when you are fair, it helps us to demystify and depoliticize the debate.
No, very well noted. Thank you. We have to move on. And we're looking at the letter
project.
or statement, the joint statement by PV Obeng, Kofi Totobi Kwati, Atu Ahoy, and Kwame Ahoy, where they expressed concern about vilification by their own NDC members. Vilification by their NDC members. I'd like to start with you on that, Kuku. Coming on the back of the party chairman's letter to the president and all the internal things we know have been going on in the NDC, you think that the party is cracking ahead of the elections, or this is just normal internal politics?
It's quite intriguing. An election year, the ruling party challenged, by all these things. It's intriguing. There are not just 2 or 3 letters. Don't forget Martin Amidu's letter, that explosive letter, the Gangwantuan crime letter, people covering up. And he was also talking of death threats and all the rest, his personal security and safety. Then comes Kobna Ajis, and he also was talking of party solidarity, lack of unity, as well as even threats on his life. Okay? And then suddenly we have the 4 gurus also putting out a letter where, of course, in self-defense against alleged attempts to assassinate their character and all the rest. Really not the best thing for a ruling party in an election year to be confronted with. I am actually intrigued by that. It's not a good sign, and I wonder how the party leader, who incidentally is the president, is coping with the situation,
I'm sure Haruna will be able to tell us.
Yes, so I was thinking he would have started so that we would have known what it's inside there. But otherwise, it's a very intriguing situation.
Tilly, there are developments within the NDC that certainly threatens party unity and cohesion. But these are matters that are being dealt with. Indeed, as I speak to you, His Excellency the President is meeting somewhere out of Accra this morning with all NDC ministers and members of parliament as a way of responding to some of these obvious threats. Now, if at all there is any lesson that the NDC needs to learn, is to note that in 2008, the MPP largely lost the election because of party unity and the lack of cohesion within the party and acceptability of some core decisions that went on. Now, vilification and other matters. It is true that within the party, there has been some division, even as to the handling and management of the Wyoming issue or the Wyoming scandal. But my caution, and it holds good even for me, every individual must be responsible for his acts, and that should not be collectively be subsumed or undertaken by the whole. Collectively, the NDC party is bigger and should be stronger than any individual. Our quest to hold on and to consolidate power must also be above any personal interest or any personal pursuit of a personal agenda. Now, the grassroots of our party, as I am aware, will not forgive us if we even give in woefully into 2012 election. We necessarily must inspire confidence in order to win the election. And I think that my honest view is that both the Kwabena J's letter and the subsequent letter by the Gang of Four should not have been matters for the public. I thought that these are matters we could have resolved within. But I do know that a number of them have been vilified. I mean, if you hear some of the comments as to who is behind this action, who is behind that action, and many at times it's exaggerated. And you just want to call somebody a dog and hang the person. That has happened. I also think that within the party, even the handling of the parliamentary primaries, matters arising out of it, I've worked at the party secretariat and I've cautioned them that, look, in 2008, you could even give people assurance that because you've lost a primaries, when we win, you can get DCE or some other portfolio. Today, that vacancy does not exist. You must find new mechanism of dealing with people's head, particularly where you don't manage the primaries process well. Thankfully, I think that the NDC did 80% better than we even anticipated would have done compared to what happened within the MPP. So a way to resolve this is the political committee of the party to have an urgent discussion. Let's freely and frankly air our dissatisfactions. I mean, even within government, there may be some dissatisfaction about aspects of government performance. That is not to say that scandalize the government openly and publicly. If you think that a particular initiative has not been handled wrongly or ought to have done better, you can manage it in a manner which is quiet, and you can manage it with trust in the president. And what I have often said, not because I'm an appointee of the president, I haven't seen anybody walk to President Mills even 1 minute before he took a decision that you are able to justify, backed with law and conscience, that on this basis you think that this could have been that way, that he will dismiss you. I haven't come across that. So if you think that his handling of a particular matter may be injurious to the interests of the state or to the party, it is for you to share with him how you think it better could have been handled. Now, like I've said, Kwabena J's letter must have been read within the context that it actually even preceded some other decisions others may have perceived as high-handed. But the important thing is that all of us must be held accountable for our actions, and all of us, even as you belong to the whole, when there are individual omissions or omissions, we should accept them and don't want to claim blame. And that reminds me, you see, people shouldn't run under cover of the party. Yes, the party is the most protective vehicle anybody within the country can use. I mean, and Susan was raising even how to strengthen our political parties in terms of financing. But I think that the NDC, it is not late yet. I mean, this before the first 90 days of 2012, if we are able to put our acts together by the end of March and then deliver. I have said that, you see, if you go to my constituency, I use Kakpaile or Yonda Twemil as example. My friend Katie is excited about Woyomi. To the people of Kakpaile and Yonda Twemil, what they want is electricity and water and youth employment. As much as you may be waxing and making political capital out of some impropriety or lack of money, you could have done that. I know. And I'm saying, when you
so tell them the truth. Why they are not getting it?
There's an organic linkage.
I say it's been
the cost of corruption.
I'm just, yes.
Is that the
it affects
underdevelopment?
You can quote, yes. So I'm just saying that, you know, my friend with his paranoia, every other paragraph, he wants to point out this issue. Must know that what the NDC must do to retain power is to respond to the aspirations and the felt needs of the Ghanaian people.
Thank you, Haruna.
But so
Katie.
Woyomi is just the beginning. No? There's Waterville and there's...
when it comes, we'll talk about it. Let's take it.
Yes, no, so really, John Kwaku in that point. Look, Haruna has been disingenuous about this matter. You know, it's not just simple. It is 660 million, and that's not Wyoming is taking. You know, no, I'm saying that is not what over 3 years. So it's mentioned quite a lot of them, all of them. And look at the list. When you look at the list, there are Nananum and the land compensation. Affects what one? Affects this people. Well, listen, what? Absolutely. This is a link. We said it's an organic link. You see, the president is being sidetracked. because of all this internal problems, the president can't concentrate on the affairs of state. Look, there was a first. No, it's a fact. It's a fact. I mean, how can Usain with this kind of gargantuan matters on his head? I mean, look, yesterday, I mean, I made a fantastic slip when we were doing what do you call it, vetting. I mean, my mind was engaged in all sorts of things. No, it wasn't what you mean. Suddenly I was getting texts and I said some emergency things to attend to, and somebody was at the airport. I had to be there 10 minutes and all that. I was asking a question, and then before I said an English phrase, a simple phrase that I had used in the same sentence that I was constructing. When it came to it, that my mind was all over it, I turned it upside down. Quickly, thank God, it struck me. What have you said? So, you know, I mean, so when the president of a nation is faced with a letter, and look, you have these guys. These guys are not, I don't think these are the greedy bastards. You know, these guys are top guns. You have PV Obin here, Tutubi Kwachi, Atu Ahoy, and my own lecturer. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. These are the, well, this one I will quote you. I don't want to get involved in this.
One of those Rollins was referring to.
As the what? I find it pronouncing that.
I don't believe they are, but that's...
So anyway, when you have my own lecture and others involved, we know these are the what do you call it? The gurus. You know, the four of them. And then you have the party chairman. If you read the letter, the man literally was crying. And then you have Martin Hamidou on top of that. Look, you are a president of a nation and you are head of a party that is ridden with this is what you call the fratricide, patricide, or regicide, whatever the side is. You know, think about it. What kind of energy have you got? Even if you are in the best of whatever, what energy have you got to now let the matters of nation excite your ultimate attention? President can rule the country in the face of it. Whatever is ripping NDC apart, please just stay away 2012 December. Let some other responsible guys take over the run of the country, because you cannot do this. Go and settle your internal problems when in another 20 years you sorted all this.
Could the same have been said to the MPP then?
And it was not in the scale as gargantuan as this. What was the problem? What was the problem? Look, it was internal. Look, and there were two parties.
It wasn't written for us, but at least we glean from Arthur Kennedy's chasing the elephant into the bush.
Have you read it properly?
All was not well in the NPP.
Have you read Kennedy's bill? I mean, some, what do you call it? You are part of a presidential campaign tour, some discussions, and petty gossip. You know, this person did this, person, you know, do you know how old I am? Look at my hair. Look at it. You know, people think I'll be 52 in June. Look at my hair. Look at the white. It's because the amount of pressure you have to absorb. You know, when you are in this kind of presidential that level, so everything that's
beyond the
NDC. You know, so it's not what the candidate is talking about at all. NDC has got a problem. They cannot resolve the country's the problems, the myriad of problems facing the country. So they should look. Konongo Kaya syndrome like this, I really hate it.
Thank you.
Let's
go to Susan, and then we have to wrap.
When I hear all these things, it amuses me, but the statement of fact that I want all Ghanaians to hear is that infighting is not the monopoly of CPP, as the propagandists in NDC and MPP want people to believe. I mean, anytime you speak to people, they say, oh, but as for CPP, you are not united. But you can see it, that the family quarrels, it's not peculiar to CPP. And so nobody should go around, you know, just saying that it's the CPP who are always...
in NDC.
Well, I mean... I am sure MPP have their problems also.
Talk about those partisan problems. Even the PNC has had its fair share
of it. So the thing is the way it is handled. And I think that the NDC need to be careful about the way they are handling this. Not because they are going to win the next election or they are not going to win the next election, but we need all the parties present. For our multi-party democracy to go, we need strong parties. And so it's important that they handle it well. I would be a hypocrite to say that I actually wish them well.
I wish them to get their house
together. And I hope that CPP can take advantage of all this that is going on in the NDC for us to push ourselves forward. Because look, the party that has been decimated most by the NDC's emergence has been the CPP, and we hope that the Harunas and all the PV Bings and the Toto, because they do, and the Kweku Bakos, they come back to strengthen the Can I finish? I mean, look, what is happening here? Of course, you know, you can also see the ethnic tones in it. I mean, we cannot run away from it. And we hope that these ethnic tones things do not spill over. I mean, the Akan group against the Ever group, and, you know, they don't want the Evers to succeed. I don't think that these four people, I mean, having stayed with the NDC, PNDC for this long, would want to do anything to undermine the NDC. Look, these four gentlemen spent, what, 20 years with Rollins, and have spent only 3 with President Mills. And so they are a product of the PNDC, NDC. I don't think that they would, you know, knowing that the Volta region is their you know, biggest bank, you know, for votes, they would want to antagonize the indigenous from that region so that the party would split up or they would lose that region. So, I mean, intelligent people should actually look at it carefully, and I hope that the intelligent people in the NDC are looking at it and say that, look, this is something that we can easily dismiss. Let us go on with our party campaigning, etc., etc., and you know. But all in all, if they do break up, I mean, I really would want Haruna to come. I mean,
okay, let's hear Kuku. You have to go and do that negotiation on your own.
For the records, I haven't left the CPP, so I need not go back. No, we have so that's for the records.
Our mother party.
Yes, but that's for the records.
Your work doesn't strengthen the CPP today.
Well, I hear you. Susan made a very good point. See, this is not just the letters. But what is behind the letters? From Martin through Kobnaji to Totobi and Atu and the rest. What you have here is a combination of, see, things, allegations of corruption, Ganganguan crimes, Gangantuan. I'm even told it's Gangantuan.
Okay.
Crimes. Death threats, character assassination. It's a very serious matter. This is what is going on. It creates a semblance of leadership paralysis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Noted.
Of a misdirected corporate entity.
Thank you very much.
The danger is that they are holding the reins of power. That is where the problem is. Otherwise, it's no big deal.
Okay, good. Let's Haruna respond, and then we'll have to bring this to an end.
I think that I agree with Susan that there are conflicts and disagreement in all our political parties. Even in the MPP today, there are still disagreements. But the management of internal dissent in the NDC recently have not been effectively handled. I know the 4 persons, Mezes Totobi Kwachi, Atu Ahoy, PV and Kwamina Ahoy. And I've worked closely with them, both in opposition and in government. And I can dove my heart out for their tremendous sacrifice in trying to get the acts of government, even the party together in opposition. They did their part. Now, it is also true that they've been victims of some character assassination. Some of the whispers I have heard. And I mean, if you were to hear some of the stories, you naturally will react the way, the manner they did, even though I think that is excessive. They could have quietly asked for a meeting and asked their accusers to set the issues straight. And I know that, for instance, that's one of the assets of the president today. If you go to gossip or whisper about any person, what the president does is, whilst you are seated there, he invites the person in. I've seen some people crumble on the face of some supposed evidence that they have. But I think that, to be fair to Mr. Atuahoy and co, some of the quiet things we have heard about them which are untrue. I mean, hurt in terms of somebody building his reputation over the years. You may disagree with him on a particular course of action, and then people just even sometimes exaggerate who has this influence or who controls this particular thing. I think as I'm speaking to you, the president is addressing our MPs and ministers of state in Dodua, and they will set the tone. I think that the NDC has up to March to come. No, this is just one of several platforms. Why should we share our strategy with you? We should share how we resolve this matter with you. There are worse problems. You want me to share? You MPP, yeah. Even you, how you were perceived under MPP. That's what you know. No, I know. Okay. I know. In the scheme of the equation,
being addressed, and by March,
as somebody's pampered boy.
That could fall like me. So
okay, I didn't say that.
What were you going to say? It could fall like me. So is that a crime?
Rollins factor part of this problem.
Yes, there are all issues which has to be resolved. Rollins refers to some matters which. With events of time, he probably may be vindicated on some of them. Let's watch. But I think that the president has every opportunity to resolve these matters as leader of the party, and he needs the party structure to support him. As for, anyway, thank you.
He hasn't spoken about Uyumi.
Who?
Rollins.
Not yet.
The day he booms.
Maybe he knows.
Okay, you know where the NPP is holding a very big rally today to outdoor its candidates for Greater Accra. There will be a live transmission of that on Joy FM. But before we just stepped out, it's a very
Did they pay
major.
for it or it's free?
Oh, you pay.
Ah, okay.
You pay to.
You pay to the station.
Sorry.
If you want live transmission, yes.
Okay, yeah.
We're in business to make money. Yeah. Good. So for somebody like Katie, I just wanted to quickly get a comment. Yeah. You know, in the lead up to 2008, we saw a lot of these major rallies, the dancing and the boogie, and that didn't make much of a difference as far as the electoral fortunes of your party was concerned. You lost. What are you hoping to achieve, having now starting with all these, to borrow the word, gargantuan rallies?
Well, I mean, I never want to hear this phrase that we lost. Things didn't go right, you know. I'm not so sure that we lost. You know,
win or you lose.
Well, you know, it's not always like that. You know, if you were where some of us were, you know. So, no, I mean, what we're doing is not gargantuan, cross that one out of this
But they
contest,
said it in the advert that it was a gargantuan.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to. Gargantuan, quote unquote, you know. He's gone on the tour of the region. He wants to put the candidates show, just parade them, let the world know that this is party politics would never be, even in the developed countries where they don't do things the way we do it, they still have their soapbox, whatever, they stand on that. It's always there, so this thing would always be there. It's just that we're doing things slightly differently this time, and I think in the fullness of time, and by my fullness of time, by the time this party has fully disintegrated, we would come to see the full. No, but the NDC is collapsing. Indeed, if we had won the third, you would have known that J.H. Mensah promised that after we dealt you 3 consecutive defeats, you collapse. Yeah, you know, all right. So, but you know, well, sure, that is worst of it. Worst of it. We left you the third one. You are imploding. You are imploding. You know, then the two dealt you very severe fatal. It was near fatal. The third one, you are imploding and then causing yourself. But I have never wished you well. You know that. So all these things going on.
We have to bring this discussion to an end. Many thanks to our panelists, Susanna Edouard-Mankwa from the CPP, Katie Hammond from the NPP, MP for Asokwa, Adansi Asokwa, the Honourable Haruna Idrisu, also Minister for Communications, MP for Tamale South, and our regular panelist, Abdul Malik Kweku Bakujin. I'm going to end with this text. It says that I think it's high time we begin to address issues concerning the country in a global manner, where we look at Ghana in the world. Where are we? What development are we doing? Are we at par with other nations? Can we survive on our own? How do we position ourselves to count and matter in the larger world? If we think this way, we'll address issues more objectively. Forget political parties when the state funds are being mismanaged. Let's see how it affects the nation and be practical and realistic enough to put our nation first. This is from a friend of mine, a very passionate Ghanaian, Priscilla.